Righty.
Cool. We are live, looking all good. Close this. All right. Welcome to Zero to Growth. This is going to be a fantastic episode. We have two powerhouse entrepreneurs on deck, lifelong friends turned business partners, Tre and Gerard Mahoney. These two go way back, all the way to primary. Now they're out here building empires together. The founders of T&G Consulting Group, a company dedicated to helping people and small business owners secure funding and repair their credit. These two know firsthand how having access to capital can change lives. Not only that, but Tre here is also the COO of Falcon Home Buyers, where he's making major moves in the real estate space with flips, wholesales, novations, getting creative out here. So, gents, for someone who might have just clicked on this video, why should they keep listening?
Go ahead, Gerard.
I think we're just gonna have great info to give the people if they haven't heard of the things that we talk about and do, the services that we provide, and we're just very knowledgeable on business credit and how to get your business funding at all stages. So I think they should stay tuned and check out what we have to say.
Fantastic. So how'd you guys get started?
So we got started. So like we said, me and Gerard been friends since primary school, like about 20 years. We both about 29.
Yeah. Creeping up. Yeah.
So we, like I said, been good friends since primary. We graduated high school. Gerard, he was in the military. What was it, the Army, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah. Yep. I was in the Army. Yes, sir.
And I just, went to work in, 9-to-5 jobs, and I was doing a lot of electrical work. I know how to do, LED lights, convert assistant lights to LED. I was electrical helper, and it was at a point in my life where I figured, like, I'm not really cut out, to follow, other people's orders. Basically, I wanted that financial freedom. I wanted to start my own thing, and me and Gerard, we just kind of was trying to figure out where can we go into business, because he does flooring as well, tile installing. And I remember when I moved to Georgia, with him down there, and I was down there working with flooring with him, and then I figured I just wasn't cut out for that either. I was like, yeah, being, carrying all this, flooring, even though I was doing electrical work, it was just, I was like, I'm more of an office type person or, salesy type person. So I got into real estate. I would say back in 2020. I learned about wholesaling. I was going to become an agent, was practicing, took the test online and stuff like that. But then I seen like some ads that popped up. Hey, this person had a $20,000 check. Next person had a $5,000 check. And it was like, hey, we wholesale this. I ain't do no repairs. I thought it was too good to be true, honestly. So what I did was I went on YouTube University, as we like to call it. Study. I literally watched so many videos for like a whole week from, people like Jerry Norton, there's so many, Zach and Rick, Sean Terry. Studied for a whole week. And I said, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. Got on Facebook Marketplace, saw a house in West Virginia. Somebody was looking to sell. He was like asking like $42,000, talked him down to $32,000. Okay, proof of concept. Got him locked in contract. And what I did was took that same deal, threw it back on Marketplace, ended up selling it to a cash investor for like $34,000. He just wanted it for his daughter can live in, he'll fix on it and whatnot. So it was actually in Beckley, West Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. Got the deal done. I literally learned it in 1 week, got the deal done in literally probably like 3 weeks. Oh, wow. Just from talking to people, wasn't even talking for no more than 72 hours, honestly.
Yeah, Tre definitely helped me get on the entrepreneur route because I was more like after I got out of the military, I started doing flooring and, that kind of became my thing. And, I was getting pretty good with it and, making decent money, but it is hard work, like Tre said, and he definitely introduced me to getting on, the entrepreneur route with, him doing real estate, wholesaling. And then we're always talking about just a lot of different business ideas and different industries. And we were just kind of all over the place until we found, business credit and, business funding.
Yes.
So it all came together.
All came together. We I did some deals in real estate years in the past. I met my other business partner for Falcon Home Buyers. He actually was a long time buyer, and he owned a brokerage in the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia. Wholesaled him a house. He was like, "Hey, I want to get in wholesaling too. You want to be my COO?" So we sat down, had lunch, became partners from there, and we took off with the wholesaling. I've learned about flips, got into novations. Did a big novation flip actually in Houston. I flew out there for like 4 months. We repaired the property, sold it. It's 1200 Champions Hamlet Court. If anybody was gonna look at it online in Houston, big flip, a lot of trials in that deal, but we made some good money. And then my partner on the real estate side, he has a lot of businesses. He does Airbnb, his pool company. And I'm seeing him doing everything from real estate and all his businesses. I'm like, I need another business. I need something that's going to bring me money outside of this real estate as well. Because real estate, everybody, as real estate goes, it can't slow down. So that's when I talked to Gerard about like, hey, why not learn about credit? First, it was credit repair. My credit wasn't good, so I learned a little bit. And I fixed my own credit in 6 months. Got, negative items deleted using the laws and stuff like that. Talked to Gerard. I was like, hey, we need to start this company. Let's help other people in our community where we're from. Because we're from a small place in Virginia. No more than like 6,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
6,000, very southern in country.
Right.
So we got into the credit repair space. And I remember Gerard just kept telling me about this business funding, like business, why stick with the personal, you're helping people to credit when you can help, small business owners or, real estate investors, anybody that has a business get funding for their business to help, their business grow, scale, or for marketing. So at first I wasn't really too big on it. I was like, okay, I'm learning too many things. Let me, focus on this credit repair. But I started to understand, do some research like, hey, business funding is, is very important, especially in the credit space. So that's literally, we found the right company to learn it from. We interviewed so many people.
That was the hardest part, finding the mentor that we wanted to go with. Because, it's a lot of gurus out now and a lot of people teaching a lot of different things. And it's just kind of hard, narrowing it down and going with somebody that you feel comfortable with and can trust. So, that took a while. That was probably like the hardest part of getting into it, the industry, I feel like.
That was the hardest part.
That's huge. You definitely got to find someone that you jive with, and that, this is a long-term relationship that you're forming. You don't want to, have to bare your teeth every time you're going to work with this person. So that's huge.
Yeah, it was so many people, because you don't want to just spend money, especially the type of money we were spending on a mentor, and just to have information left out.
Yeah, we had to be clear on what we were getting out of the investment and being the membership and being in their group and building and growing with them. We just really had to vet out different people in the industry and figure out who we wanted to go with. But I think Tre did a lot of the research on the company we ended up going with, and we both agreed and we just hopped in and added it to the credit repair. So
I love that. From the start, I mean, you guys are finding the knowledge, taking action on that knowledge and getting the results and just slowly just building and building. And I think a lot of people probably would have got stuck a long time ago on the analysis paralysis, where I've heard you say that you guys are in Georgia.
I'm in Georgia. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in Virginia.
It sounds like you guys are in a bunch of different markets.
Right.
So it sounds like business is going really well for you guys, and I love that. But when it comes to the credit repair, I think you guys found a really good niche, because for one, Tre, you're saying you rebuilt your credit, and from the time that I use, credit stacking to get my own business funding, it was kind of like, if I didn't have great credit, I don't think it would have worked the way I intended it to, whether I got less funding or whether I think at the end of the day, it is just better to build your credit first before you start doing that. And I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong.
Yes, you are 100% correct.
Yes.
Because what we use, so we're funding brokers basically. So we tend to go after help our clients get the 0% credit stacking. And a lot of people don't know, they can go to they'll go to their banks and try to go for the 0% funding, but they'll get denied and don't know why. And I tell people all the time, it's not about your personal score, honestly. You can have a 700 credit score, but if your profile is not built a certain way, you're not going to get approved for funding.
Yeah, that's probably misunderstood. People will be like, oh, I got a 7 something or close to 800, or I have an 800, but it's not necessarily the score. It's like the full profile that the banks are, kind of looking for and want to lend high limits, out to.
Exactly. Yeah. And because like I said, you have a 700 credit score, but you got a thin profile, you will not get approved. But this is where we come in at. So even let's say even if you don't have a high score, and that's why we offer the credit repair, or we have courses for that if you want to learn how to do it yourself, or you can always go YouTube University or somewhere to do it, legal ways to learn how to fix your own credit, because you can't have no negative items if you want to get business funding. The only negative items you can really have is like no more than 2 late payments within 24 months. That's it. Like if you got late payments from 7 years ago, you're fine. But if you have collections, charge-offs, you got to handle that first. Now, if you're a person that don't, want to do credit repair, but your business is making revenue a month, like say $10,000 to $15,000 a month, then we can help you as there, because we have other lenders we work with that are revenue-based type of lending. Like whether we have got a plumber got them funding. I had got a truck driver funding. He was making like $30,000 a month, but he had low credit, but we was able to get him a line of credit just because of his revenue. And we push that offer as well, but I really love the 0% credit stacking, because 0%, 12 to 18 months. If you know what you're doing, you can push that 12 to 18 months 0% on and on. What else? It's like 1 to 2%, or a monthly payment is what you're paying on what you use.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and this, and I try to preach it to a lot of other real estate investors, especially wholesalers, because a lot of wholesalers don't have money to start their business. And if their credit is right, there's money out here you can go get and use for marketing to scale your wholesale business.
Definitely. And the people get confused on it. You don't have to use the whole 100K limit. Let's, say you get 100K on a credit card, business credit card. You don't have to use the whole 100,000, because we can get multiple different cards, and you can just use a small portion for, whatever marketing or, inventory or whatever else. $10,000 will help your business. You don't have to use the whole 100,000 and worry about how I'm gonna have to pay it back and all this other stuff. So
when would you say is the best time to start setting business credit up?
So the best times, because like I said, we don't use the business credit side of your profile. We use your personal.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't get into the net 30s, 60s and all that. So we just make sure your personal, if your personal is set up right, and we can help with that as well, we say go for it. We would do a whole funding plan. We will tell you what you need. It'll be laid out. What banks are we going to go? We're going to see what banks you have relationships with already. So who we going to attack? We built a big database with bank relationship managers across the U.S., honestly. So we know where to send you to or what data points there is. But the best time, I would say the best time is now. If you have the right profile, the best time is now to get the funding. I mean,
Yeah, because we're
That's
gonna
what the
analyze your profile and see where you're at. Because obviously, if you have negative items, we need to address those and build up your credit, and that takes time. So that's just longer process to you getting to, more funds to start or grow your business. So definitely, time is now for sure.
Yes, ASAP, especially if you have negative items, because we do things the legal way out here. There's a lot of people out here that do illegal credit strategies like sweeps. I hate them so bad. That's why Gerard laughing. It's like, so okay, so that's why Gerard laughing, because I really hate like these credit people, the gurus or whatever. They're called sweeps. They can sweep your credit.
Fix your credit in 3 days. Remove all negative items in 72 hours.
Yeah, there's no possible way. The only thing you can probably remove quickly is like part inquiries, but they're now, don't get me wrong, they're removing these negative items from their credit report. But little did the consumer know is they're doing illegal strategies. They doing fake, false identity theft stuff, or they saying human trafficking. It's been a very big thing. Even I think the CFPB has sent out letters to people about the human trafficking, because this is what they're claiming. This is how stuff is getting swept from your credit report. Everything gets deleted instantly. And I hate them because when I get clients that come in, they're like, hey, I need to get a car in 30 days, but they got 10 negative items. I'm like, could you get this done? Somebody said they can get this done for $150, $250 in 30 days.
And they'll have like a 400 credit score.
And I'm like,
500 credit score.
I don't do those. Credit
days.
repair, and I tell them to Google. I'm like, look, credit repair, real legal credit repair takes 3 to 6 months or sometimes longer, depending on how extensive the report is. And that reason is because legally, the bureaus, when we send dispute letters, we use laws and everything. The bureaus have 30 days to look at everything, to correct, modify, or delete these items. If they don't delete these items, which sometimes they really don't, then we have to send more dispute letters, and that's another 30 days, and so on and so on and so on. That's how credit repair works. But all these people out here that's promising these sweeps or clean your credit in 60 days or less, I tell people, be wary. Some people, they go for it. I didn't see people, and this is federal fraud. So I didn't see people go to jail, or, you see a newsletter, this person committed fraud, it was a scheme, all kinds of stuff. So every industry has bad apples. And some people,
a lot of people are scared of credit repair because, things like that. And it's kind of like, a lot of different people in the industry are not, as trustworthy as they should be, dealing with credit repair, because I feel like everybody can benefit from it if, they need it, if they need to get credit repair.
Especially if it's done the right way. I just tell them, like, don't expect 5 years worth of messed up credit or things, you have done to be fixed in 60 days.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible. It's illegal. I mean, it's possible, but it's very illegal.
Yeah.
So we know there's a lot of scammers out there at this point. How does the average consumer go into one of these places and spot some of these red flags?
Red flag is anybody that got the word sweep, red flag.
Yeah, I would stay away from
credit sweep. I'll stay away from credit sweeps. I stay away from anybody who's, if you're going to talk to somebody about credit repair, ask them what's their process is. Ask them. And if they come to you and say, we can get this done in 60 days, and they have a bankruptcy, or if they don't talk about the laws or, the process of credit repair, then it's a red flag. Or they're charging you $1,000 up front. Certain states have certain laws that you have to abide by. Right. In Virginia, you have to be bonded. We're bonded. We're a fully bonded company. You have to be bonded. You can't really charge excessive fees. So it's just, you want to ask those type of questions when you're talking to somebody who does credit repair.
Yeah, definitely test the knowledge of, make sure they know what they're talking about, and things of that nature for sure. And definitely, I guess, go off of word of mouth too. A lot of people work with someone they have, because that's how we get a lot of our business for credit repair. It's just people telling another person their experience with us, our professionalism, and being upfront and honest with them throughout the whole process, and then that just spreads to different people.
Exactly. And
so
it's just a lot of especially this thing with student loans right now. A lot of people's student loans are dropping. It's dropping the scores. Is from 100 points or whatnot. And I just go on social media and I see people posting, "Hey, do this on Credit Karma. Say this, something about Elon, whatever." And you can see people sharing it. And I'm just looking at it. And I'm just like, social media is the thing. People just follow anything blind help. Because even if you say things deleted, they're going to show up and they're going to report. They're going to go back onto your credit report within like 2 to 3 months.
I was just about to mention that. Yeah. So if they're not removed properly, they can definitely come back. And sorry about that.
Yeah, they can definitely come back. That's why, I really hate. I'm not going to say it. Strong word.
So you could end up putting yourself in a worse position because you follow something else that you saw online.
Yes.
You pulled this thing off your report. You do whatever you were going to do to get some funding, and now that comes back on you.
Yes, exactly. It comes back on you, and I tell people all the time it's fraud. And then so that's why organically we get a lot of clients that way, just from word of mouth. And we are I tell people you can work with us. We're very transparent. We'll let you know your disputes are being sent. We even show the letter. Like, hey, here you go. Here's the date that the letters went out. You can see everything that's on it. I had come from other credit repair people, other credit repair companies. They've been working for like a year. They paid money up front. They had one thing deleted, and it's been a year, nothing else. And they come to me, and we see months go by, a couple months, they get multiple things deleted, and then they see, okay, then they start referring their friends to us, and so on and so on. Because the end goal, especially if you're a business owner, if you need credit repair, it's the goal for business funding. You can go out here and apply for grants and stuff like that. But even then, you don't know who to trust with grants, given all the scams in some groups you'll see. Get this grant, no payback, stuff like that. But the end goal, if you're a small business owner, I would suggest every business owner. And you said you did credit stacking to yourself, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. And did you go with a company or you did it yourself?
I went with a company.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, get into that. A lot of people ask, why go with a company and you can do it yourself? I tell people all the time, you can do it yourself. But don't, we had a client, we was trying to get him, at least $70K in funding. He went himself to the bank and tried to do it. He wasted that, $50K limit he could have got working with us on a $10K limit. Because he don't know how to structure everything or the data points. There's certain data points you follow for each credit, for each business credit card you have to follow, or how to structure your profile. And so it's a good thing. How was your experience with that, company? I'm pretty sure it was good. No complaints.
No complaints. It was my first. I would say I didn't really know what to expect going in. I didn't do a whole lot of research. I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, hey, I need some business funding. Like, let's see what we can do. It'll help me get some more things paid off and put me in a better position. And at the end of the day, it did, but at the same time, it didn't. It just caused more problems, so to speak, because now I just had more money to play with.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think for a lot of people who are going into this, you do have to be careful because you have to realize that you have more money to play with, but just because you have more doesn't mean it's going to solve your problems, because at the end of the day, you still got to pay that back.
Right. Yeah. We always advise people to have, a plan going into it, and telling people, this is to invest, grow, and scale, and to always, make back enough revenue to, pay yourself, pay your business, and also pay back those cards, because, it's revolving. So you'll get to reuse that money again if you make sure, you take care of your credit limits, make sure you're paying your stuff on time, paying them back, so the banks will loan you more money. So we always tell people to always have a plan. And it's been clients that we actually turned down because of, they just wasn't right in the right headspace and didn't really have a plan. So we would be doing them a disservice to give them that large of amounts, to not really invest or use it for a business.
And that's why I preach wholesaling. I preach wholesaling to anybody. If you don't have a business and you want business funding, wholesaling is probably the best business to get into, or anything real estate investing, or creative finance. But just wholesaling, regular wholesaling, you can use that money for marketing, to get deals in, and then you close these deals, pay back the money you use. It's like the perfect formula, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, for someone who's jumping into wholesaling, I think a lot of people, I'm not going to say a lot of people, I say that because I'm in the sub-2 community, and a lot of things I hear is you can do all these deals with no money out of pocket. And there are some deals you can do with no money out of pocket, but you still have to have a marketing spend. There's going to be little fees here and there. And so how do you advise people start coming up with a plan to kind of set themselves up for success when they're pursuing this?
So as far as the business funding and the wholesaling? So if somebody came to me and they have the perfect profile for business funding, and they was like, hey, I don't have a business. What do you recommend? I'm recommend wholesale. I'm like, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to plan it out for you. Whether you want to hire cold callers, we have cold callers on our Falcon Home Buyers business, or you want to go pay per leads, use iSpeed to Lead, or these other companies. I'll stay away from Google Ads right now because it can get expensive. So I would just show them the most inexpensive routes of marketing. Like I said, create a plan for them. We get them 50 to 60,000. Take probably about 10,000 from that 50, spread it out for a few months in marketing for them. Now, before even that, I would get them to either find somebody that can close or that knows how to talk to them. But first and foremost, you have to be a people person. Everybody can't do wholesaling because some people don't like to talk to people on the phone or deal with these sellers. Like, I'd have been cussed out and everything.
Definitely with the cold calls, right?
Yeah, cold callers. Now, if they rather hire somebody but they still have to have somebody to close. So I would try to either maybe Facebook ads, probably get people that want to sell their property, that are motivated. I would recommend that first, to put some ads toward that. And I really would point them in the direction of a few videos that's out here on YouTube where some of these people have just live videos just talking to sellers so they can, get a better grasp on how, to be a people person on the phone. Because like I said, some of these sellers, they are motivated and they're going through things. So you got to be very, have some sympathy for them. So I would probably get them to put money into, first learn wholesaling first. Yeah. Learn from start to finish.
A numbers game. You got to know your numbers.
You know what, Gerard?
So you definitely got to know your numbers. I think it's like a lot of math involved, and if you get the right number, you have a deal, and that's kind of what you're looking for, and kind of how you can benefit from doing wholesaling to get a great deal.
Yeah, and that's
all parties. So yeah.
Yeah, you learn the ARV, the formulas. I used to do that a lot, but you can get kind of stuck in analysis paralysis doing all that. So I just try to get them to look at what sold, what the buyer buys it at. Look at the comps. You'll see what these buyers are buying at. Get it below that number. Of course, you want to know what the repair value. How much repairs need to go into it. But I would recommend just learning for a few weeks first, so you can get a grasp of wholesaling, and then jump into it. Take 10,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of people's biggest problem is not having the funds. Yeah, done all the research, they got all the knowledge, but you kind of need some funds to get started. Whether you have great credit or not, capital is needed to kind of get started and get off the ground, I think.
Yeah, and that's what I did. The novation flip. It was a wholesale. It was a novation, kind of like a wholesale, sort of property on the market. I our first one, we used business funding to fund the renovation costs. Renovation costs was about $70,000.
What is a novation?
So novation is basically like a regular standard wholesale deal, but you're wholesaling on the market to retail buyers. You know, we you know, you lock the deal up, you kind of go to sellers, and you know, we kind of be upfront about our intentions. You know, sometimes wholesalers, they hide what they're doing. We go to our sellers like, hey, this is our concierge service. So let's, for instance, the deal that we had got in Houston, it was brought to me by my guy Jack. He's in Pennsylvania. He was like, hey, might be a good novation deal. They want a high number. Usually novations sellers want a high number or retail number. And they're getting these cash offers from other wholesalers that are very, you know, low. I looked at the numbers, looked at the house, and I was like, okay, we can kind of get him, you know, a little bit more than a typical cash offer if he goes this route. But when I looked at that property, it was very outdated. Sitting for 2 years, needed some, you know, some paint, new floor, stuff like that. It wasn't a holes in the wall, or, you know, I mean, the pool needed to be redone. So what we did was, he was getting offers at like 470 cash, and I told him like, hey, we can give you 560, but let us come in and put some money into it. And then when we throw it on the market, you get your net number, 560. So he actually agreed. He was like, he never had an offer like that. He actually lived in Georgia and his house was in Houston. So I flew out to Texas with my partner, Jake. We looked at it, met with some contractors down there, started interviewing them. And my partner, Jake, left. I stayed in Houston to run it. And we literally used the business, you know, credit card for it. Put about $60,000-$70,000 into it, and we put it on the market for like $825, and it sold within 2.5 months. But like I said, novations are usually deals where the seller is asking too much, and it doesn't work for a wholesale, but the house is kind of like, it's not your typical wholesale deal, like a big fixer. You know, it's just outdated. They haven't done no work into it within 6 years. Still livable. A retail buyer can take out an FHA or VA loan on it. It will, you know, it'll qualify for that. So that's what
We're
really
talking like a pretty light rehab.
Yeah, most of them are light rehabs. Yes, that's typically what novations are, and we, you know, we basically help with the process of dealing with the agents, because the sellers, a lot of these sellers, they want to be hands off. They don't want to deal with the showings. They don't want to deal with, you know, the paperwork or scheduling, all this stuff. So we, like I said, as a concierge service, we help with everything. And that's how we are able to do so many novations. I learned from Novation King. I'm in his private community. Got in that community and did a novation within the first, I would say, month, 30 days in South Carolina. We made $10,000. Didn't put no work into it at all.
Wow.
I think the only thing we did probably was give her a new refrigerator. But you know, that was only like $600. $600 compared to a $10,000 novation fee is, you know,
you're coming out 9,400 ahead. So
so yeah, it was. So I do preach, you know, if you're gonna get it into business, if you don't have a business, I would say get into real estate investing, because I don't know too much about e-commerce, and I know people that get business fund, they do that or do Airbnbs. We funded some private fleet dealers that do Toro and stuff like that. But I always suggest get into real estate, because you can make a lot of money, and you're in the sub-2 community, so.
Yeah, it's all about building the generational wealth, building something that lasts way past your lifetime.
Yes.
I thought I was going to be getting into real estate. I was going to, you know, be the money man. immediately slinging deals left and right like this was going to be easy. I was not prepared for the journey that I was going to have to undertake. And now I see, aside from real estate, there's just so many vehicles to build wealth out here. Not only that, but it's, even important to find ways to protect your wealth. And I think now we're starting to come to a time where a lot more people are starting to look into their own financial literacy and finding ways to increase that.
Definitely, yeah. I think it's just becoming so important just to be, financially literate and learning about credit, learning about owning a business, and just all these different things that maybe a lot of people haven't heard of or been taught in their household coming up. Just like me and Tre, I didn't know too much about money, didn't know, about a budget and just a lot of different things that, I wish I'd learned sooner. But the time is always now, especially, coming into 2025 where, a lot of things are uncertain right now. So definitely want to get your finances in order.
Yeah, because I did not care about my credit 4 years ago.
I didn't know what it was.
I had collection.
Didn't know the importance of it. It just, it was something like, to us, free money. Like, oh, I got $300 to use, and we're not thinking about, how to pay it back and things like that. And we're just getting into it.
Yeah, and I'm glad we started, aside from the real estate, we got into this business funding and credit. We're really getting into this business funding side just to, help others. Like and this is another business. If somebody wanted to start, a business funding, company, we help them point them in the right direction as well, because it's very, lucrative, just like wholesaling is.
Everybody's looking for funds.
Everybody looking for funds. It's just like everybody looking for houses. Everybody's looking for funds. And if you can help small business owners get funds, there's no upfront fees or nothing. You invoice your client after, whether it's 8%, 10%, or what they get funded, whatever. Or if you point them to a lender, that's just another great business to start, especially if you're a people person. If you know how to go out and talk to people, I done met people going to networking events that needed funding. Send that Starbucks on my computer. One guy asked me, we just chatting. He asked me what I do, and I told him what I did. Gave him my business card, and he owned a dealership, and he was looking for funding too. So it is a great business to have.
Yeah. And you get to dabble in all the different industries, because I know that was a big thing for me and Tre. We was always bouncing around the different industries, diving into it, but not really sticking to one thing. We're just kind of all over the place until we finally found the perfect combination of credit repair and now mainly business funding as we move forward. So I think it was just a great thing. It just worked out perfect for us two, and brought us together with that.
So what was that key moment where it was like, this is the path that we need to be on? Like, this is the right thing for us?
So in my opinion, I'll let you go, Gerard. I think in my opinion, honestly, the right path for me, when we joined the mentorship, and then I start seeing other people, my age, or that's been doing it for a while, and I just start seeing them, all the clients they're doing, all the money they're making as well. But then you just start to see, like, it's just, that was for me. Seeing it is bleeding for me. Like, if I can see somebody that's doing it and they're excelling, I'm just like, why not me?
Yeah.
For me, that was my moment when I started seeing, especially our mentor and a lot of other people my age, just getting all these clients coming in, and it was just so life-changing for me. And I was just like, yeah, we are in the right business. Same way I felt when I got into real estate, when I was closing deals as well. I felt that same passion, that same hunger. Like, I get excited talking about business funding.
Right, definitely.
So that was just, that's on for me.
Yeah. I think I knew it was serious once we invested into the mentorship and got, with a very start actually getting into the industry and talking to some heavy hitters in the industry, like some big people that's, have a large following, they're making all the money, and us, we're just trying to, step our foot into the door of, business funding in the industry. And I was just like, wow, this is like the first major step of doing it is actually, investing and getting the mentorship and just really diving into it and bumping shoulders with, the top guys and women in the industry that's doing it. And that was like a big thing for me. I was like, okay, we're really doing it.
Especially proof of concept, getting our first deal done was it was amazing how, simple it was. Just how simple it was. It was just like, it was just so simple.
A lot of stuff in entrepreneurship is pretty simple, but you got to be disciplined. You got to know your stuff. You got to be consistent. All the little things that people overlook, and they're looking for like different answers. Like, oh, well, I do that, I do this, but like, how can I make 100K like you guys, or how can I get 1 million followers? And they always say something simple, but it just doesn't resonate with people. Like, you got to be disciplined. You got to be consistent. You got to always be, knowledgeable on the industry that you're in. You got to keep learning. You got to be, full of energy and really want to do it. And then people just, they're looking for something else, looking for a different answer. But it's definitely,
I think a lot of that is people, to your point, Gerard, a lot of that is people bouncing around and trying to, and maybe they don't realize it yet, but just seeing all the things they don't like and then finding something they do like. And then it finally clicks. And there can be that time of just, there's so much, wow, I have no idea what I'm doing. Why didn't this work? Why didn't that work? But then you find that one thing and you really excel. And it's like, I wish I found this sooner.
Right.
We talk about it. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
I wish we found this 4 years ago.
Because there's definitely a lot of exploring when you're trying to get into entrepreneurship, because it just, like you said, so many different ways that you can make something work and grow and build it, especially nowadays with, new technology and everything is so fast and so quick and something new always coming out. So you're kind of like all over the place trying to do everything. But I would tell people just stick to one thing, stick to something you like and that you're, can be knowledgeable in. And just stick to that one thing and make that your main thing that you do and that you're known for. And then you can dabble into other stuff once you get more established, is what I would say.
Exactly.
So definitely.
So when it comes to partnerships, how do you guys keep the business moving forward, staying on track, dividing your responsibilities without stepping on each other's toes?
Go ahead, Gerard.
That's a good question. I think me and Tre are just kind of like on the same page, and we're kind of we don't let our ego get involved, because we're very confident people and what we do and very opinionated about stuff. But I feel like me and Tre always find a way to have a compromise, and always the main mission is to keep pushing the business forward, keep building our brand, and coming together on big decisions and things like that. But I would say Tre definitely does a lot of the legwork and a lot of the research as far as, connecting with a lot of different people as far as partnerships and, mentorships. Like, hey, man, we need to connect with this person so we can learn about this. Or, hey, we need to get in this person's group. They're teaching this over here that will help us with our business. And, so I think we're just like the perfect 1-2 punch with it. That, in my opinion. Yeah.
Couldn't say anything no better.
So,
what do you think has been your biggest challenges in scaling operations?
That's a good one. For me, I would say finding the right marketing strategy. I think that's one of like a very important big part of your company, especially in 2025 when everybody's on the screen, everything is being put in front of people, and it's kind of all about your audience. If you get in front of the right people, and it'll just connect and work. So I think that's the biggest thing, getting in front of the right people and trying to find the right clients and build the right audience that goes with our brand and what we're trying to do with our company.
Especially building that trust factor too, because a lot of people are people are very sketchy of certain things. Especially if you go, I was talking to somebody and tell them like, hey, you can go get 0% business funding. Won't report, a majority of it won't report to your personal credit report. There are some that will, but we stay away from those. And a lot of people just be sketchy about it, like, oh, why haven't I heard about this? Why stuff like that. So I think building that trust factor is very important. That's been, I won't say it's been a challenge for us, but it's still, if somebody doesn't know you, they don't know you well, and then you come into them talking about your business, or if you're sending them a DM, it's just, having to have them like, you might, I get left on red a lot of times. Or when I'm trying to I do try to talk to some of these admins or some of these real estate groups, like, hey, I would love to, post or say something about business funding a little bit, because it can tie into real estate. Really, this is who need it. But a lot of them just don't really, they don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, some people kind of used to sticking to their system or what they know works or what they feel like doesn't work, so some people saying, hey, I can get you 100K in funding, 0% interest. It just kind of, some people, they might just don't seem that believable. And some people are, kind of afraid to have debt and, to use credit because, the fear of, having to pay it back, which I say is important, but I feel like a lot of the more successful people, in business, I believe most of them have debt. They have a lot of it. They know how to use it properly. They have a plan.
Use other people.
Yeah, they use other people's money. So I think, people that don't know about it or not taking advantage of it should start. And I think that's what our company's trying to do is, educate people and get more people to, take advantage of credit. Because, credit is not available to everyone in the world. It's kind of unique here in the United States. Not everybody, different countries don't have, you can't go out and get a loan anywhere or get, 20, 30, 50K from the bank to, start your business. So I think people should take advantage of it if it's available, so.
I didn't know we had that credit funding and being able to go and get those types of loans were unique to America.
Yeah, some places they don't offer, they don't have a credit scoring system like we have here in the States. And in some places in the world, they're not allowed to have debt at all. It's just kind of like they use, their money that's circulating in their system or however they do it. But not everyone in the world has access to be able to apply for credit and different type of loans like we do here in the United States.
And we dealing with our clients that we have now in Arlington, Virginia. They're all from Georgia, the country. And we got connected because my business partner, Jake, his family is from Georgia, but they moved here. He was born in the States. And he has a lot of relationships. So we have like 6 clients, and it's growing just off that connection. But they don't have stuff like that back in Georgia. So, and they are amazed that they can, use their credit to get access to these funds to start, whatever business they're trying to start.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's really something, actually. And that, I think, makes a lot more sense for why people come over here. And, not only is it the land of opportunity where you can make your dreams happen with enough elbow grease, but that you can go and use these products, get your financial footing, without you having to really grind all that out and earn 20,000 yourself first.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
the opportunity is amazing.
Yeah, because just think about it. Let's say you get 100K in business funding, on a high limit credit card, 0% interest, and you use only 10K. So that's only 10% of your usage. You use 10K and you put it into investment, and let's say you make 20K. So now you're able to pay back that 10K that you initially borrowed that you didn't have before. Pay back your credit card so you can reuse that limit again, and you also just made 10K in your pocket, and you didn't put up any of your money out of your pocket to do that. And that's kind of the concept. Obviously, in any business industry, there's going to be risks. So that's why I always say, be educated, be knowledgeable, come up with a plan, but you got to get out there and do it and invest and believe in yourself and believe in your company and try to bring in some revenue.
Absolutely. For someone who's struggling with their credit right now, what's one of the first steps they can take?
Somebody who's struggling with their credit, the first step is to take, I would say, look at your credit report. Go to annual credit reporting.com. I think that's the site. I think that's the free site.
Yeah.
Have to double check. I think it's what it is. Annual credit report. You can print a 3-bureau report for free. Highlight everything that you have negative. From the inquiries to collections, if you have them, charge-offs. I would say either go find somebody who does credit repair or go on YouTube. Look up consumer laws involving credit. Look and see on each report you have, look for the inaccuracies. Because by law, there's a law out here that from Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, everything must say the same exact thing on their account. It has to say the same thing. So let's say you have an account, it says you're 30 days late on Experian. TransUnion says 60, and then Equifax said you're not late. That's an inaccuracy. Dispute.
Yep.
Use
and that's backed by federal law, so they have to remove anything inaccurate on your report and
or modify or fix it.
Yeah, it's pretty high percentage of people in America on their consumer report has inaccuracies. It's, I'm not sure the exact percentage, but I know it's close to 50%, if not over 50% of people that have a credit report has inaccuracies on their report, and they need to be removed, by law. So
by
50%.
Yeah, it's very.
Definitely look into it.
It's crazy. And a lot of because a lot of people don't know about this. Like you can, like I said, you can usually, highlight everything inaccurate. Go to ChatGPT, ask Chat, hey, this bureau, they're showing different late payments. Those late payments. Create a dispute letter. Create a dispute letter to these bureaus explaining the laws and the inaccuracies that you're having, and take that letter. You can do it certified. I recommend certified so you can track it, because the bureaus they like to play in your face. they like to just ignore stuff and everything, but because let's say you send a dispute letter to them, they will send a stall tactic, or just saying like, hey, we see that you maybe be working with somebody, or this seems like not coming from you, or it's verified, updated. People, the regular consumer will see these type of stall tactics and get discouraged. Like, okay, I'm not doing nothing with my credit. No, don't get discouraged.
You mean I gotta do more work?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, they're like, okay, I don't know what to do now. Like, so you do another letter, and that's when you can get, involved with consumer attorneys. I work with a consumer attorney, for clients that, if these bureaus or even debt collection, because a lot of debt collectors, they call, harass people and stuff like that. Consumer attorney, she steps in, we get that whole debt waived permanently, and we put some money in our clients' pockets, for stuff like that as well. But somebody that's trying to, get started in credit repair, I would say use ChatGPT, look up the consumer laws. You can put that in ChatGPT. It'll show you every law. But for the
definitely one of those laws for sure. Because people are their rights are getting violated and they can do something about it. But if they don't know about the law, they don't know that they're getting violated. They don't know that there's things that you can do to fix your credit report. And a lot of people just say, oh, I gotta wait 5 to 7 years for it to fall off and this and that. And they don't really go and make sure and verify that all this information on your report is correct. Because a lot of the times it's a possibility that you have, stuff reported inaccurately. And that has to go. It's got to get off of there.
Yeah, it has to go. That's why I would tell print out your credit report, circle the inaccuracies, create the letter, send it off. That's literally that's how you do credit repair. And credit repair, if somebody doesn't want to sign up with somebody, that's literally how you do it. But if you want the hands-off experience or somebody who has the knowledge that's been doing it for a while, and we might have more aggressive ways, legal ways to get stuff, handled, then that's when you go to a credit repair company, to get your credit fixed. You just won't have to, spend a little bit of money, or it's investment.
Right. Yeah. I think if you only got 1 or 2 negative items or maybe a couple hard inquiries, you might not need a full company, to come in and do your, fix your credit. But if you're in the 400 or 500s, you got 10 to 15 to 20 negative items, you might not have the time or the patience, to deal with that, especially, if you got other duties like work or, whatever else you have going on in your life. You might not, have time to go back and forth with these credit bureaus and bill collectors and doing all that stuff. So credit repair company might be a better option for someone like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. Because like I said, the federal law requires the bureaus to have, report information that is accurate. Federal law, and I believe it's code 1681. Yeah, 1681 is the code if you, go look it up. So this is how, a lot of credit repair companies get stuff deleted from your credit report. Because like he said, about 50%, I think it's higher, honestly. Has a lot of people don't know they have inaccuracies. And this is so, when I learned how to do credit repair and I was learning about this, and I was looking at my credit and I was just like, this is so many inaccuracies on my negative items. Even your positive accounts can be inaccurate, but you don't want to touch those because it's positive.
Yeah, right.
But
yeah, because I was one of the people that didn't believe in credit repair either. Before I got into it, Tre kind of introduced me to it, and we started learning together, and getting into it, and ultimately deciding to start up our own company. Because doing all this research, learning all the laws, we were not, figuring out how to do it and seeing that it actually works was kind of the big thing. Because a lot of people, they don't believe in it. There's oh no, you can't do that. You can't fix something in 3 to 6 months or 6 to 12 months. You got to wait 5, 7 years for it to fall off the credit report. And that's not always true, especially if the information is reported inaccurately. But some people are just disbelievers in it. But I think they ought to look into it and do some research for sure.
And if they don't investigate or delete or fix the inaccuracies or ignore your disputes, that's a violation. That's up to $1,000 in your pocket for them violating your rights. Those are your federal rights. So
right.
Free money if you learn the laws.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, I will say I had a delinquency for this was probably about 10 years ago at this point. But the whole time I was like, wow, how am I going to get this ding off my credit report? What am I going to do? And eventually someone had told me, it's probably in the 8th year or something like that, that once you get transferred to collections, they have to be able to verify the actual debt or something like that, because if they can't verify it, then they have to drop it. Is that true?
Yeah, so they have to verify. It's a lot, especially with collection companies. So a lot of these debts, they get sent to these collection companies. They buy it. They buy this debt from you, and then you'll start getting calls, emails, and everything. So you can send dispute letters to get them to verify it. And if they can't verify it, or it can't tell you how they got, this type of debt, then they have to delete it. And most of the time they won't even, sometimes they won't even flinch or anything. It's just, you have to know what you're doing. You have to know the laws for this when you're talking to these debt collectors and when you're sending these letters. I recommend people do not, you can send a method of validation to these debt collectors, but I like going to the bureaus. I like sending letters to them because they are the ones that
bill collectors. They could be pretty tough, and they deal with a lot of people. Trying to get things removed or corrected, and so they're very knowledgeable of certain tactics and things like of that nature. So they're pretty tough.
But I love them because you got collections over here. Hey, I'm gonna get a violation offer. I'm looking for a violation because they violate. Consumer attorney, she is on it.
Automatically, it's got to go, and you might get some money in your pocket.
Now you get a $4,000 collection. I just had a client. He had a $4,000 collection on his credit report. They violated his rights. What I did was they were calling him nonstop. I told him what to do. I said, hey, when they call you again, make sure you record this call. Tell them, hey, I refuse to pay this debt or any other debt that you have associated with that company. What that happened was they waited a little bit of time. They called back like 7 days later. And when they called back, asking about the debt, whatever.
Violation.
Violation. I said, yes. Submitted everything to the attorney. We had got it done. She sent the demand to the company. That $4,000 debt got wiped completely. They can't resell it because sometimes when they delete the credit, they try to resell it to other debt collectors. They can't resell it. They ain't got to worry about that debt no more. It's taken off their credit report permanently, and they put $700 into the client's pocket. So they went from having a $4,000 debt to $700 in their pocket.
Right. And these debt collectors and the companies, they think they can, violate these people's rights because they feel like a lot of us just don't know about it, and they feel like they can push the limits and cross the line, for their business. And that's where we come in, and we work with a lot of other people to help protect these people's rights and, get them what they deserve and make sure everything is reporting as it should be.
And that's another free service we offer for any debt collectors or creditors are calling, emailing, texting you, send them our way. We'll look at it, see if it's the case or not, give it to an attorney, and we go from there.
Now I think I got really lucky because I remember they called me one day and I was so sick of getting those calls. And I was like, look, I talked to my bank about this. I don't owe you the money. I owed them the money. And they said, we got to resolve. So I don't owe them anything. So pretty much I need you to stop calling me. And I must have just got lucky because they stopped. Never heard from them again.
That's it. And if they would have called you again, violation.
Right.
I wouldn't have known that. I'd have probably just blocked the number, but
right, yeah. It's certain hours that they can't call you, and then like it's just certain things that they're not allowed to do that a lot of these companies continue to do, like basically badgering you into getting you to pay this debt or whatever. So yeah, and as someone that's getting these type of calls, you want to verify and make sure everything is correct before you agree to anything, because what if you pay this collection and then later on further investigation, you realize, some things wasn't reporting right. But I already paid it and it's already too late. I lost that money, and a lot of times they won't remove that negative item. It'll still be there, and it's still banks can look at that as still a negative hit on your credit profile, even though you paid off the collection. So
I tell all my clients, don't pay.
That's scary.
Yeah. So
you can pay off collections and still, wow, that's
The only way I recommend people to pay a collection if they agree in writing, or even if they say it on the phone. Make sure if this comes to phone calls, record it and hear them say that yes, if you pay this collection or they agree on the settlement on this collection, we will remove it because it can take 30 to 60 days to get this collection removed from your credit report if you agree to that. So I always say record it if you're on the phone with them, or have them send you something in the email or to your mail in writing, like, hey, you pay us this amount, we will delete it from your credit report. I don't recommend paying it because, like I said, a lot of them can be petty. They're like, hey, we already got the money and we gonna still leave it there and just pay. There's nothing you can do. Right. It's a pay commission. I mean, you can go do credit repair, but you guys spend more money on credit repair unless you learn it yourself. And it's just, I don't recommend paying collections. That is my, opinion, my prerogative. Like, do not pay these collections unless you get something in writing.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And especially when you get the debt collectors calling to collect the debt and they're not the original creditor, they bought that debt from the original creditor, the original person that lent you out that money, and they're trying to get the full amount. But you don't always have to pay. I mean, this is if you're going to pay it. You might not always have to pay it, but if you're going to pay a debt, let's say you owe $1,000, you don't have to pay that full $1,000. Be like, hey, look, all I got is $150. That's all I have. I'm willing to pay that. If you take it off my credit report, let's get this thing resolved. And you get a little bit of money, I get my debt removed. Let's do it like that. And a lot of times they might agree to it because they're just trying to make whatever they can make off of your collection because they bought it from someone else.
And they bought it for cheap. You don't always
have to pay the full amount. Yeah.
And they bought this debt for cheap too. So just because you owe $1,000 don't mean they paid $1,000 for that debt. They probably paid 10 cents, 20% on the dollar for that debt. Because what these creditors do, they write it off. It's like they just write it off on taxes. Yeah. It's a loss.
A loss, yeah.
For them. So, it's always good to negotiate your debt if they are calling you.
Right.
So someone has listened to this episode. They are like, I'm going to get on my shit today. I'm going to fix my credit. I'm going to get these creditors off my back. But I need some help. Where can they go to find you guys?
So we are on Facebook, NIG. We have a business page, T&G Consulting Group on Facebook, or, Tre LaShawn, that's my name right there. You'll be able to find me on Facebook.
Yep. Gerard Mahoney. Be able to find me on Facebook. And we're on Instagram as well. T&G Consulting Group on Instagram and on Facebook. And like you said, we got a Facebook group. It's about business funding. And I'm just dropping, just free knowledge like we did today here on this beautiful podcast. We're doing the same thing in the group. And we're just trying to, educate people and make sure, they're out here, they're prepared and they're knowledgeable about credit and about business funding, because it's very important to, your financial health and ultimately, building wealth that's going to last, like you said earlier, beyond your years, beyond your lifetime. So I think it's important.
Well, guys, this was hugely valuable. For anybody listening, be sure to connect with these guys. Go check out those Facebook pages, hop in the groups. If you got value from today's episode, like, subscribe, share it with a friend, because somebody needs to hear what we talked about today.
Yes, sir.
So, guys, thank you again for coming on, sharing this knowledge. Greatly appreciate it. And for those of you listening, we will see you in the next episode.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for having us, man.
Peace.